We saw that Ryan Bowen stopped using steroids. Larry Wheels has stopped using steroids for health
If you're
reasons.
still going to be at the top, then why are you taking the drugs? If you're still going to be at the top, then why do you need them in the first place?
Welcome to Armwrestling News once again, guys, and our guest, Mr. Parveen, the owner of Pro Punja League. We just discussed about the Pro Punja League finals and semi-finals, about the ranking tournament, which are going to be displayed on Willow TV. So please check that video out in detail. Yes, arm wrestling is on TV. It is not a dream, it is a reality, and Pro Punja League is working towards making it even better and even bigger. The topic that we are going to discuss today is about performance enhancement drugs in arm wrestling, steroids as people call them. So there were many debates around this topic recently. We saw that Ryan Bowen stopped using steroids. He was quite open about the usage of steroids, and he was open about when he quit using steroids, and maybe we saw a slight decline in his performance. Larry Wheels has stopped using steroids for health reasons because he wants to be healthy, he wants to live longer and be able to perform in the sport for a very long time. So we have this vision where athletes who are using steroids are saying that you cannot remove them from the sport and they are not harming the sport as much. The guys who are natural, they are completely against it. Many of them want the steroids to be removed from the sport. This time we are going to have a different vision from a man who is involved in the promotional part of the event, not so much as competing himself on the table, but organizing high level sports. And you're not only involved in arm wrestling, I think you have a background of being involved in many sports. You are heavily involved in MMA. Whenever there is a UFC fight, we see you fly there and you watch the show in person. So please tell us something about the sports background that you have.
Uh, yes, apart from being a wannabe sportsman growing up, I have done various sports. But like you rightly said, I'm not an arm wrestler myself. I'm a promoter of Pro Punja League, and yes, we are into MMA as well. We have one of India's biggest sites, MMAindia.com, and our team goes and covers various UFC fights as well. The last one was UFC Singapore, where I went myself as well. It's always amazing. I love watching UFC and MMA. And we have other various sports sites as well, Sports India Show.com, Cricket India Show.com, and some other fitness sites and other sites as well. But coming down to arm wrestling, of course, like you rightly said, I'm not an athlete. I'm a promoter, and have always loved arm wrestling, starting from Sylvester Stallone's Over the Top, which I think which was a cultural moment for a lot of people in the arm wrestling community because it kind of revived arm wrestling, globally. So that was where our passion also started.
So, what do you think about the usage of steroids? First of all, what is there any place for steroids in arm wrestling right now and in the future as well? Should we ban them? Should we allow them in professional leagues? What exactly do you think about this topic?
See, my personal view, of course, is that there should be no place for steroids or any kind of performance enhancing drugs which are banned. Uh, the reason being is it should not be a contest of who can buy the best steroids or performance enhancing drugs. It shouldn't be a contest of that. It should be a contest of who has worked hardest, who has put in the most blood and sweat into training, and that is why I'm really against steroids, performance enhancing drugs, both on an amateur and a professional level. If you see even the UFC when they put in their drug policy, a lot of athletes who used to do well didn't. A lot of people's body structure changed. It started to go out. So the people who were on it weren't performing so well all of a sudden. So that's why I say it should be a contest of who has worked the hardest, not who has done the most steroids. So I think everybody needs to, according to me, of course, implement these policies to keep the sport drug free, steroid free. And the most important thing is, I feel arm wrestling will not get the importance and respect it deserves until we take banning steroids seriously and performance enhancing drugs. We need, if we want the respect that the sport deserves, we need to start putting in drug testing into all kinds of professional and amateur platforms. We should start doing that. I feel as soon as possible.
But I've seen one thing, that the guys who are using PEDs, they have this one argument that it is mostly still about genetics and your hard work. If everyone stopped using drugs, those people say that the guys who are at the top, maybe 9 out of 10 of those guys will still be at the top. Do you agree with
Well,
this
if you're
statement?
still going to be at the top, then why are you taking the drugs? If you're still going to be at the top, then why do you need them in the first place?
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's like it's an argument they're making for not using drugs. So and I all I can say is I agree with them. That if it's not going to make a difference, and if it is about genetics and about hard work, then don't use them. Full stop.
Right.
Right? And end of conversation, I guess. Don't use them.
And another topic that arises is about getting sponsorships and recognition from government and different organizations. The guys who are clean, they say that arm wrestling will not get the sponsorships that it deserves, the recognition that it deserves, if we do not implement drug testing. But the guys who are using steroids, they say that look at American football, look at other big professional leagues. Clearly those guys are using steroids. But if using steroids had to do anything with the sponsorships and recognition, meant then bodybuilding would have no money, because all of them are using steroids. So is there any correlation between getting sponsorships and recognition and implementing drug testing?
I think it depends. Of course, bodybuilding doesn't have most of it doesn't have drug testing as far as I know. Other professional sports do have drug testing. Of course, you have a lot of people who know how to beat the system. Unfortunately, and a lot of people who do get caught. You see some of the biggest names. And I don't want to take any names, but in baseball also we've seen some huge names who have been caught. And it does put a spot on your legacy. On what you've achieved up till then. Uh, it does. You see, if you are caught and your name comes out there, you will lose sponsorships, right? A lot of sponsors are putting, clauses in contracts nowadays, which state that if you are caught for any, steroids or drugs, then you will have to. Not only will the contract get cancelled, you will have to return the money they have paid. And I agree with those kind of clauses. And going to the recognition part, as far as India is concerned, I do know that to get official recognition from the government, implementing a drug policy is one of the kind of points that you need covered. So if you want to be recognized as an official sport, you need to have a drug policy in place and drug testing in place.
And yeah, and also in the Olympics, like of course it has to be government recognized, then maybe it can get into the Olympics. And people are already talking about it being in the 2028 Atlanta Olympics. I think the specially abled arm wrestling is going to be in Paralympics, not the
Yeah,
Olympics, but
hopefully, for that it doesn't need to be government recognized. It does need to be recognized by the international body.
okay.
And once it is recognized by the international body, then it will definitely have to be recognized by the national, uh, the countries as well. But the countries can still officially recognize them without it getting Olympic status. So that depends on the countries in question as well, and then the international bodies.
So earlier I used to have this thought. I was always saying that let them use in the professional leagues and let them be tested in the amateur leagues, and do not allow the professional guys to compete in the amateur division. This is what I used to think. And I think I remember I had a call with you about 4 or 5 months ago, and the way you explained it to me on the phone, since then I wanted to record this video. But right now the topic is kind of hot. This is why I thought about recording it now, and it kind of changed my vision around this sport and around this topic of steroid testing. And one thing that always kind of bothers me is people are making of some things like WWE, for example. It is a $1 billion industry, but people are making fun that those guys are just actors. They're not real athletes. But even those actors have a list of banned substances that you cannot take. Whether they are using them or not, whether they are getting tested or getting caught or not, that is a different topic. But even those actors have a list of banned substances, and I will not take the name of any leagues, but all over the major super match leagues and other leagues in arm wrestling all over the world, they do not even have a list of banned substances yet. So this shows that arm wrestling, maybe yes, we are getting very very big right now, but in such topics, in such things, maybe we are still at the very beginning stages.
We are, but we do need to take those initial steps. We need to take those initial steps. We need to start, random testing. We need to do all of that. We need to put, I don't want to say punishment, but consequences in place. For first-time users, second-time users, different things. I don't want to. Also, athletes have to be educated. Also, see, sometimes you take things without knowing. Also, because you're taking a nasal spray, you're taking some kind of painkiller, something else which would have a banned substance, which you don't know. But see, once the drug policy kicks in, being unaware of what is in a product is not a good excuse. So leading up to an event or tournament, where a drug policy is in place, you need to know what's going inside your body, especially if you're taking some kind of a medicine which may have something in it. So the athletes have to start becoming much more aware of what they are ingesting in their bodies.
Yeah, and I think one thing is clear to everyone, that we have to lead by example, and Pro Punja League likes to do that. So I'd like to ask you what Pro Punja League has done, is doing, or maybe is planning to do in the future about this drug testing. Are you making any policies, or you have anything in working situation right now? Any or
As you know, we did do mandatory, well, not random drug tests in Gwalior in the Pro Punja League ranking tournament. We did have two athletes. I don't want to take any names, who did test positive, and they have been given a first-time offense of 3 months. They've been put on the bench, so to speak. So I think this should be a kind of a lesson for all athletes to take this seriously, and to also educate themselves that if you are, even a nasal spray or something, you need to check first.
right.
Yeah.
And I do think that it is a very good head start, or early warning, not a head start, for all of the athletes, and a very fair chance to the athletes who have been tested positive, because it is a new thing for everyone. Like, it has not happened in Indian arm wrestling, at least. And now it was something new for them. Maybe they were not aware. So it is fair that they will be given the second chance. And I'm quite sure that the punishment is going to increase if they are defaulters one more time.
Yeah, absolutely. Because going forward, right now, the first time we handled this, but going forward, the National Drug Agency will handle it. So so even though the consequences will be stated by us of what it is, but it will get larger going forward as the athletes get more educated also. Right, in the beginning, I can understand that it's a learning curve also for them, where they are learning, what contains what. But going forward, as as they know and are aware of these things, they'll have to educate and check themselves much more to ensure it doesn't happen. And yes, the penalties will become more severe and longer.
Yeah, and I think that after knowing all of this, no one all over the world, no one should have that excuse that there is no money. It cannot be done in professional. You have done it in a professional league where you're not taking any fees from the athletes. You're putting in everything from your own pocket, and in a professional tournament, you have done drug testing, which is very formidable. And if you were talking about educating the athletes, so where can they find what are the banned substances, if
Well,
the
they're
athlete
on our site, propanja.com. We've got a separate tab for banned substances. We had shared that with them before the tournament itself, and even now they can go there and find these substances. Yes, they will have to do a little, because there's a lot of banned substances. It is a very extensive list, and this is why I say, it is a learning curve for everybody. Sometimes you don't know what is in, a certain uh, spray or painkiller or whatever. So they will have to watch out for those kind of things as well, and they'll have to take the help of their friends, coaches, and a lot of things, because this is something which is an issue sometimes abroad as well. I remember Canelo once got tested positive for something, and what happens is that thing that he was tested positive for, beef, beef, the cows in certain countries are injected with that hormone to improve the quality or make them bigger, or improve the quality of beef, or to make them bigger. And when they tested the beef at a certain restaurant where he had gone, they found that yes, it did contain that thing. Other people, athletes have tested positive sometimes because of protein powder they've taken. Sometimes there are certain protein powders where they put a little something just to make it more effective. And sometimes when those things have been tested, it has turned out to be that they did contain a little something. So it is a process which the world over, it is a learning curve for everybody of where these substances can be found. And sometimes, a lot of times the athletes do ingest them knowingly, right? But there are some times when they don't. But having said that, it's very hard to then get into did they know, did they not know. So that's why the athletes have to be responsible of what's going into their body. And I do hope that the arm wrestling world takes this seriously, because I really do feel that taking arm wrestling to the next step and giving it the platform and the respect it deserves does require taking drug testing seriously as well.
Right. And thank you very much for joining, Parveen Dabas. And guys, please follow Pro Punja League on Instagram, follow Pro Punja League on Facebook, the biggest arm wrestling Facebook page in the world. And follow them, subscribe to them on YouTube, the fastest growing arm wrestling channel on YouTube. So thank you very much for joining, sir.
Thank you, Pradeep. Always a pleasure.